News on a planned WrestleMania match as of last week as we head into WrestleMania week this course. A match announced for tonight's WrestleMania RAW featuring all participants in both Women's Championship matches at WrestleMania 38, plus an update on if we're going to see Damian Priest versus Finn Balor at WrestleMania. Triple H thanks fans and co-workers for their thoughts and their tributes to him after his in-ring career was officially announced to have been over. And Alexa Bliss shoots down any reports of heat between her and Ronda Rousey. All this and more in today's WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE, and it's WrestleMania week. There's a lot going on this week. I feel like this is the calm before the storm. I was looking through stories. I always record these videos a bit earlier on in the day, and then they come out a bit later on. And at the time, I was thinking, you know what? There's not a lot of huge stories. And I was thinking, that's a bit strange. But then I was thinking, you know what? There is so much that's going to happen this week when it comes to Raw tonight, even NXT on Tuesday, Dynamite on Wednesday, even Impact Thursday with what they've got going on. Plus, you've got Friday, SmackDown Hall of Fame, Supercard of Honor, Multiverse of Matches. You've then got WrestleMania Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday, the Raw after Mania. It's going to be a really, really busy and newsworthy and eventful 7 days. So I'll take the calm before the storm right now because I feel like there's going to be a big storm coming when it comes to the world of WWE and wrestling news. So let's start off talking about a proposed WrestleMania match that hasn't been announced yet, but is expected to be announced at some point this week. Now, a WrestleMania match is still slated as of March 25th, according to Fightful Select, but had to undergo some major changes. Now, originally, we're talking about here a reunited New Day was set for a match at WrestleMania that would see the three compete together at the event for the first time in 6 years. However, a major injury that resulted in Big E breaking his neck has significantly changed things. Of course, originally, the trio was scheduled to face Ridge Holland, Sheamus, and Pete Dunne, now known as Butch, in some sort of six-man tag team match on the show. Now, as of last Friday, Fightful are reporting that the match was still planned with Kofi Kingston and King Xavier Woods set to face off with Sheamus and Butch. However, it was reiterated to Fightful that the match could be changed to include Holland or scrapped altogether. So when it comes to this one, look, I've said this before that I felt like there wasn't really, because of Big E's injury, there wasn't a need to cancel the match. If they had plans for the New Day versus this six-person British tag team, which they seemingly have, I felt that the way to go would just be to change it to a tag team match. Butch hasn't actually had a match since he debuted on the main roster, Pete Dunne, and I guess that they were maybe saving that for WrestleMania. Ridge Holland's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting recently. He's been having the singles matches, really. So maybe Ridge Holland doesn't have the match at WrestleMania, but to be honest, why not just do the 3-on-2 handicap match? What's the real big difference? I know Big E would have meant to be in that match, but I would say just still do a 3-on-2 handicap match and say we don't care about the numerical disadvantage. What we care about is getting revenge and redemption for our fallen brother Big E. I feel like that would be the right storyline direction to go in. Or, of course, they just say find a tag team partner and find someone. There's plenty of people that aren't on the WrestleMania card right now. Give it a Ricochet. Ricochet's not defending the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania yet. Give it to Finn Balor. He's not defending the United States Championship at WrestleMania yet. I mean, I look at some of the people that aren't on the card, and I also say, you know, WrestleMania's got a 2-hour pre-show each night, and probably the event itself is going to last 4 hours, maybe 5. There's a lot of time they need to fill up there. So I would be shocked if we don't hear more matches announced this week. I think this is going to be one of them. As I mentioned, I just don't know which route they're going to go down. Do they go down the route of, you know, is it going to be a 3-on-2 handicap match, or is it going to be just a usual tag match? I think 3-on-2 works. I think that's the way that it will be going. And as far as Big E, you know, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because we've had some updates, and obviously he's back home in Tampa. He's walking around. But that doesn't change the fact that his neck injury is still really serious. There have been reports saying, you know, Big E might not never wrestle again. That's a serious issue. The fact that he didn't have to get surgery is one thing, but isn't under the assumption that he's going to be coming back. They still don't really know. And as he mentioned, when you go to the doctor's appointment, your first appointment, and they go, man, you were inches away from having a stroke, from dying, from being paralyzed, they might recommend, look, sorry, you just can't wrestle again. So we really don't know the future of Big E. I see a lot of people saying, okay, they'll circle it back and eventually Big E will come back and they'll do the match eventually. We really don't know. We don't know the time frame on when Big E's expected to return, if he's going to return at all. And I think that puts into perspective how serious that injury truly is. So thoughts are with him as he continues his road to recovery. Of course, it's Monday, so it's Raw tonight, WrestleMania Raw, as they're calling it. Why? Because you have to throw WrestleMania on everything to get as much money as possible out of that brand. You've got WrestleMania Backlash, you've got WrestleMania Raw, WrestleMania SmackDown. Does it dilute the word WrestleMania? Of course. But WWE sees WrestleMania as this brand that's got 40 years worth of equity. Every single person knows what WrestleMania is or has heard of WrestleMania. So when people are searching for WrestleMania, they'll get WrestleMania Raw, or they'll get WrestleMania SmackDown, or they'll get WrestleMania Backlash. That's why they do it. It's branding. But a match has been announced along with several others for Raw tonight. A major women's tag team match is set for the final WWE Raw before WrestleMania. WWE has announced that Bianca Belair will team with Ronda Rousey to take on Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair on the March 28th episode of Monday Night Raw. Of course, Becky Lynch is set to defend the Raw Women's Championship against Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 38, while Charlotte is set to defend the SmackDown Women's Championship against Ronda Rousey at the event. Of course, both matches are set to take place on WrestleMania Saturday. Of course, it's not the only thing that's been announced for Raw this evening as well. You've got Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns under the same roof. Whether or not they'll touch, I doubt. I think if they do an angle where they, and I would assume maybe Brock. I don't know how they'll leave it with that one, but I would assume if there's going to be physicality, it would probably happen on SmackDown. You've got Rey Mysterio announced to be facing The Miz. Logan Paul will be there, of course. Miz still has one of Mysterio's masks. You've also got the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. You've got that 8-woman tag team match. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Naomi, Sasha Banks versus Carmella, Queen Zelina Vega, Natalya, and Shayna Baszler. You've got RK Bro, the Raw Tag Team Champions versus the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos. Why? Because... Why not? As far as the women's tag match, I would assume, it depends what they're looking for. The Raw is structured so weirdly. This might actually, realistically, be the main event of the show. I would probably recommend that they do the Brock and Roman segment in the first segment because that's the most viewed segment of Raw. You know, the most viewed thing on Raw is the opening segment because that's where most people watch. After that, the viewership gradually just goes down for the remainder of the 3 hours. So if you really want to get people talking about WrestleMania, your main event on Sunday, which, by the way, they've sold more tickets for Saturday than they have Sunday, then I would have that Brock and Roman segment in the opening segment. As far as this tag match, it's a big deal. If I'm looking at the women's title matches for WrestleMania, I would say that I'm more interested in Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. I think that Becky Lynch's promo last week was good. There isn't still maybe that heat that was behind it, maybe around SummerSlam time. I can't really put my finger on to why that is. What I can say is that the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey, I'm just not feeling it at all, and with Rousey coming back at the Rumble, not that I was buzzing for it, because I don't think I ever really was, but I understood that it was a big deal. Ronda Rousey's a huge name. People know who Ronda Rousey is, and I think WWE was hoping it was going to be a marquee match, and it is to an extent, but the build to it, there isn't really any logic behind it still. They did a really wish-washy reason for why Rousey would select, Charlotte Flair over Becky Lynch, even though, that's the match I think people want to see. But they had to go with, I think, Becky versus Bianca. I do think that's the right call, but the logic they tried to weave in there just hasn't worked. I think Rousey's promos have just been dull. She had a promo on Friday and it was bad. It was really bad, and Charlotte Flair's just been doing her promos, I'm the greatest and I'm the queen. Bow down to the queen. You will bow down at WrestleMania. And that's kind of what she does. They're doing the whole thing of I've never tapped out to anybody when she has in WWE not that long ago. I just don't think it's worked. I really don't think it's worked. And the match itself will be fine, but for what I think people thought was going to be main eventing WrestleMania Saturday, and it still might. It just feels like it doesn't feel like a WrestleMania main event match, and we'll see if it is going to be. If I was WWE, I would be having certainly some reservations, because my concern would be, we put this on at the final point of WrestleMania Saturday. Are people even going to be into it? We've seen that WrestleMania main event, whilst it's a coveted spot, it's a challenging spot in the sense of if the crowd aren't into it, they will just boo. They will just boo you out of the stadium. And I could see that happening. Do I see or anticipate 60, 70, 80,000 people, however many there are going to be, or WWE says there are going to be? Do I see that many people cheering for Ronda Rousey when she wins the SmackDown Women's Championship? I see them being a bit indifferent. I really do. And I think that's going to be a concern for them. Hence why there are these reports of they might go with Austin main eventing against Kevin Owens in that KO show segment, because the crowd will be into it and they'll be happy. And that's the important thing. It's the first night. They've got to build up momentum and continue momentum into the second night. As far as the tag match on Raw tonight, I think it'll be good. And certainly they would hope it does a big number, especially on the go-home edition of Raw Before Mania. Speaking of WrestleMania, a lot of people, myself included, have been shocked that we haven't had this United States Championship match announced between Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Now, their status for WrestleMania is up in the air following the announcement that both would be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale on Friday's edition of WrestleMania SmackDown. Of course, people had assumed that this was going to be a United States Championship match, especially after Finn Balor defeated Damian Priest for the United States Championship on Raw a few weeks ago. Now, Dave Meltzer reported in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the match is still scheduled for WrestleMania weekend. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer wrote that a United States Championship match between Finn Balor and Damian Priest, quote, was scheduled for WrestleMania weekend, though nothing has been officially announced by WWE. Meltzer noted that Priest's victory over Balor on the March 14 episode of Raw, thanks to a distraction from Austin Theory, suggests the two will face off at WrestleMania weekend. Now, again, this is the crucial thing, I think, when it comes to Dave Meltzer, is people will read that and assume that that is fact. Dave Meltzer has said it, so therefore it's scheduled. Dave Meltzer is doing what all of us pro wrestling fans do, is taking an educated guess. He is looking at that going, well, Priest beat him on Raw, so that would suggest that something's going to happen at WrestleMania. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. My assumption is, as I mentioned, whilst we are less than a week out now from night one of WrestleMania, my assumption would be that there is still a lot of time to fill for both nights, because, again, they've got 2-hour pre-shows. Now, that first hour of the pre-show might be all panel talk and all that kind of stuff, but 2 hours of panel talk? I don't see that. There'll be matches in there. So I would be shocked, even though, when the announcement was made for SmackDown on Friday, I would be shocked if we don't get Priest versus Balor at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. I would be really, really shocked, because I just think they've got time to fill. And I think they also surely would have heard the reaction, too, of people going, why is the United States Championship and Intercontinental Championship not been announced for WrestleMania? Then this week they'll be announced and they'll go, see, it was always the plan. You're so reactionary. And it's like, well, was it always the plan? That's the real question. Triple H has been reacting to the support he's received since his in-ring retirement last week. He took to Twitter yesterday afternoon to respond to all the support he's received since announcing his retirement. This is what the game said in his statement, quote, "There will come a time when you believe everything is finished. That will be the beginning. I am truly humbled by the texts, calls, posts, and all the kind words. I'm grateful to each and every one of you. I wish I could respond to each of you, but I type so slow, I never leave the house again. Please know how much they all mean to me. Stay healthy, be grateful for all you have, and seize the day. I know I am." So Triple H once again reacting to the response once he's announced his in-ring retirement. And I didn't really realize at the time, but it's something like 20-something years to the exact date that he made his in-ring debut as well. I think it's almost 30 years, 1992 to 2022. So it's still a bit surreal, because he's kind of the last, shall we say, of that. There aren't many left from that Attitude Era that are still going. There are very few. And, it's obviously sad that he didn't get to end it on his own terms. But unfortunately, not a lot of people do. right? Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't get to end it on his own terms. Hulk Hogan didn't get to end it on his own terms. Ric Flair didn't get to end it on his own terms. A lot of people don't get that storybook ending that they would like, say, Shawn Michaels, like The Undertaker. And that sucks. That absolutely sucks. But what a career he's left behind. And also, what a legacy he's still making with NXT. And I know NXT isn't now what it was, and it's different. But there's a lot of people in WWE right now competing on WrestleMania weekend that wouldn't be competing if it wasn't for Triple H. And I think that's just as valuable to his legacy as whatever he did inside of the ring as well. Finally, Alexa Bliss has shot down some rumours about her relationship with Ronda Rousey and some possible heat there. Now, a new rumour appeared online over the weekend that caught the attention of WWE's Alexa Bliss, as it claimed she had heat with a certain top WWE star. Quote, Bliss reportedly, easy for me to say, disliked Ronda Rousey due to her reckless in-ring style causing injuries, it stated. The shade thrown at Ronda from Alexa in a group chat with other WWE women confirmed the heat, and the timing did see Bliss miss out on many months of action after getting banged up. But according to Alexa, this report was untrue, and she has had only one group text that she is currently keeping up with. Quote, this is quite comical and not true. I'm only in one group chat, and it's with my bridal party. Hashtag keep trying trolls. Though the details about her disliking Ronda may be untrue, it is on the record that Bliss suffered back-to-back concussions when working with Ronda Rousey during her first stint in WWE. The first was at Hell in a Cell in 2018, and a second was a subsequent WWE live event just before Bliss's scheduled match at Evolution. This was all documented in her WWE documentary. Look, we have heard before that maybe Rousey had heat with certain people. Bliss, I remember at a time, around that period of time, or slightly just after it, Nia Jax posting a tweet, and she's reportedly friends with Alexa Bliss. All we do know is Nia Jax is crazy, considering some of the things she's been posting on social media recently. Ronda Rousey's stiff, and I still think she's green. Let's be honest, she's green. I still watch some of her segments now. I'm like, and what happened to Alexa Bliss? There was a concern at the time she'd never wrestle again. The concussions were that bad. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. And look, you don't have to get along with people to work with them. That's what I'll say on that situation. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestle News 365. There's going to be a lot going on during WrestleMania week, so now is the perfect time to subscribe. And I'll speak for you again very soon. Peace.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.